Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the 3 mistakes I made when I was just starting out in med school. Now these are the mistakes I wish I had known earlier, and I thought I'd share them with you so you could hopefully learn from them and avoid the same mistakes I did to help you save a lot of time and effort moving forward. So let's go for it. Now, the first mistake is doing passive study techniques, which include rereading several times in a row, highlighting, and taking a lot of notes. And when I was in my first year in med school, I did all of these. Sometimes I even rewrote everything word for word from the book. And after that, I highlighted all of them. And I did this for hours on end, sleeping only 4 hours every night so I can make notes on everything. However, after exams, I noticed that I wasn't getting the scores I would have wanted. And this is when I realized that even if I put in more hours of studying, it did not necessarily mean that I would get a higher score. So the amount of time and effort didn't translate to better results. So I decided to look into whether the study techniques I had become so used to were truly effective and efficient, and it turns out they aren't. And this is when I came across the book Make It Stick, and it says that the study techniques that will help you remember more information faster and for longer are those that involve the active retrieval of information from your memory, not just the passively putting information into it. So I tried using active recall strategies in the form of practice tests before and after reading the study materials, and I even tried doing flashcards for a few weeks, but it was a big challenge. There was a lot of discomfort and resistance from my former self because I wasn't used to doing it, and it took more time and energy than simply rereading and highlighting my textbook. But once I started doing it more consistently, I quickly noticed significant changes. I started to recognize what the most high-yield information were and focused on them, and not surprisingly, it increased my test scores, and I could honestly say that it helped me make more mental connections among different topics, and it created a deeper understanding of the study material. I also realized I retained more information for longer, even months and years after I had initially learned about it. The second mistake I did was I didn't do enough past exams to guide my studies early on. During my first year in med school, I was just brute forcing my way to reading all the suggested books and handouts because I used to think that when you're in med school, you have to know absolutely everything. But it turns out you don't, because not all topics or facts will be asked in the actual exam. Mostly, it's just the ones that are considered high yield, and it's way better to first focus and master those high yield topics instead of spending equal amounts of time studying everything. And the way you find out which ones are high yield is by using past exams or practice questions, because it helps you sort out which concepts keep coming up in the exams and use them as a guide for what topics to put more time and effort into when you're studying. And I know people are gonna say, and please don't cancel me for this, but it's not cheating. It's just a more efficient and effective way of studying. Now, when I tell my students about this study strategy, most of them are reluctant to try it out. And honestly, I was also hesitant to do past exams when I was just starting out because I was afraid that doing poorly on the past exam would reflect my current knowledge level and it would lower my self-esteem. But I quickly realized that this was just my ego talking, so I reframed it and instead thought to myself that this would help me to identify what my weak areas are and deepen my understanding of the study material. And when I did this, it accelerated my rate of failure and it also killed my ego, which helped me to learn everything much faster. Now, the last thing I wish I hadn't done when I was in med school was taking my studying too seriously. At that time, I believed that getting high grades was the most important thing, and I tied my self-worth to achieving them. And yes, having good grades is important to increase your chances of getting accepted in a residency training program you want so that your career options will not be limited. But this came at the expense of my relationships with friends and family, which I now realize were equally, if not more important. So you have to realize that this is not the only goal, and you have to find that middle ground, that balance to keep your overall mental health in check. Now, if you want to know more about the exact step-by-step process about how I use practice questions in med school, you might want to check out this video over here. Now, thank you so much for watching, and do hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and see you in the next video. Bye.